So, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris and I'm a gorilla in the wrist. Today we're going to review this Shanghai 7120 and ask the question, is this the watch that nostalgia built? Whilst I've got your attention, it would be great if I could ask you to like and subscribe this video. It makes a huge difference to the channel. Back to the watches. So today we're taking a look at this Shanghai hand wind watch. It's a model 7120. I know from the brief research that I've done that actually Shanghai watches have a history going back quite certainly to the early 70s. Let's very quickly do a walk around the watch. So what we have is a 35mm vintage style dial. Finishing on the case is high polish. There's nothing other than high polish. It's high polish or high polish. So hopefully you like high polish. The dial itself is kind of interesting, really. So it's a white dial, really nice and crisp. It's got applied indices, applied battens all the way around the outside, and they're these. I'll try and get them close to this and try and find some way of showing these a little bit better. They're really hard to catch in the light, but they are sort of double black batons with a silver applied strip in the middle. The silver strip, for reasons I can't really get my head around, have a habit of appearing as, well, I suppose they're silver really, grey. So they catch the light in some quite interesting ways. It has simple fence post hands for the hour and minute. They're quite short, so the hour hand, the minute hand stretches out almost to the indices. The hour hand falls a good way short, and the second hand is a very sort of thin needle style hand with a little pop of red, and this is the movement in this is a hand one. Now, again, there seem to be conflicting reports as to what the movement is. I've read one report that talked about it as being the Tongji standard movement, but I'm not betting the house on that. I'm not entirely sure which it is. It has the Shanghai watch emblem above the pinion. Bring it a bit closer, along with the word Shanghai. It then says Tang Xian 19 Zhao, which I'm reliably informed means 19 joules. There's no date complication. The back of the watch is a slightly unusual sort of sealed. I haven't been able to get the back off to play with it. I simply don't have the tools for doing it. But has the name of the watch factory across the top, and then the model number 7120 with 937 after it. I'm presuming 937 is probably the sort of the recent model number. Again, I know from reading up on it that the earlier ones have 3s and 4s, start with 3s and 4s. But it's fairly simple. It's quite thin. Just by my calculation, comes in at just under 10mm. It is hand wind, but even for somebody, the crown actually is fairly decent. Even for me with my enormous maws, I actually didn't have any problems winding it up. And the watch itself stays wound for probably 24 to 36 hours. I think this is one you'd probably have to wind every day, like we used to. And then finally, we'll just mention the strap, because I have to really. It's arrived on this. What do you say about this? It's arrived on this slightly shiny black pleather strap. To be honest, when it arrived with me, I took it off this. I threw the strap into a box and stuck it on a NATO strap, which was where it happily sat. But I thought for the review, I probably should show you how it arrived. So we're going to run through the specifications of this watch. It has a 35mm dial width. The lug to lug is 42mm. Has a stupid lug width of 19mm. More of that later. But comes in at a lovely thin 10mm. Not sure about the movement. It weighs in at a paltry 40 grams. Has 30 meters of water resistance and a really nice domed acrylic crystal on it. So, let's talk about the things I dislike about this watch. So the first thing, fairly obvious really, that pleather strap is just nasty. Now, I know we have to do this in the context of the price that we paid, and these coming in at around 25, maybe my expectation is unreasonable. But I'll be honest with you, I'd rather they sent it out without a strap on it at all. So that's the first thing that I'm really not a big fan of. The second one, I did mention it in the walk around the watch, is that I find that hour hand just a fraction too short for me. I'd like it a little bit longer, wouldn't we all? And then the final thing I don't like about this is the 19mm lug. Why would you do that? I've never understood that. Maybe there's a cheaper supply of pleather straps at 19mm than anywhere else. But collectors, we all have lots of 20mm straps. We all have lots of 18mm straps. And I'll tell you how many 19mm straps I have in my collection. That many. Other than this one, of course. So what it does mean is when I tend to take it off this piece of garbage, what tends to happen is that it gets thrown onto a NATO strap and you can see the spring bars a little bit down the side, but I can live with that. That's not a huge problem. But those are the things that I don't like about this watch. So let's have a go at the things that I like about this watch. And the first one's a slightly odd one, I guess, which is I really like that it's acrylic. Now, I know it's not a bit of an odd thing because it's going backwards a couple of centuries. But I really like the fact that for this price I get something that, should I wallop into a wall, and let's be honest, you know what I'm like, I will. I don't have to worry if I get a scratch on this, because with a little bit of elbow grease I can always get that out. So that's the first thing I like, and it's period appropriate as well. The second thing I like is I like the idea of a hand-wind watch. For me, this sort of takes you back to a more innocent era, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a while. But I think that's really good. The movement seems pretty good in all the time that I've been using it, which is a couple of years now. I've never had any particular problems with it. It's not an absolutely perfect time keeper, but it isn't terrible either. It's pretty reasonable, actually. But I like the idea that you get up in the morning and you wind your watch up. It's certainly a touching base with the past to me. But the thing that I think I probably like most of all about it is that vintage vibe to it. This probably was the watch that went on your granddad's wrist. I can kind of imagine it, leaving aside the nasty pleather watch. But even back then, you kind of took what you got. You came from a world where you didn't have massive choice like you do today, and there wasn't the same mass consumerism. So for me, I really like that idea that this is a touch point into a different world. And for many of us, probably a slightly better world. I think at times we look around the world as it's currently going and think, I wish we had some of the simplicity we had back then. I know it's naive, but it's just the way we feel. Okay, let's have a go at summing this one up, shall we? So the thumbnail said the watch that nostalgia built. I think for me that's probably the best way of summing this watch up. It's not perfect, not by a long shot. There's some of the design features I'm not a big fan of, but you kind of have to take it as a whole. And when you do that, you do get this remarkable vintage vibe. I think I said it earlier, I can imagine my grandfather wearing this watch. It has all of the foibles that watches had back in his time. So we didn't have automatic wristwatches. you didn't have quartz wristwatches. So this one required you to wind it up, and it's one of the first things you did in the morning when you got up was you wound your watch up. And there's a strange nostalgic charm to that I can't really explain. I suspect it plays into the fact that I'm just getting older and I have a hankering for simpler times. I look around at all of the advantages that technology brings us, and I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm sharing this with you on one of those advancements. But for me, I think those were simpler times. I don't think we were bogged down in celebrity culture. And so I have that nostalgic feel to this watch. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and comment. If you disagree with me, or if you think the modern world is better, you're probably right, but hey. Please feel free to leave a comment and engage with the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Other than that, it's Saturday afternoon. Just really to say to everybody, have a fantastic weekend, and I hope to see you back very, very soon. Take care, folks. Bye bye.